Recently, I've heard feedback from avid eSword users who have been using the program for many years, and they're really saying that eSword version 15 just ain't it. And the reason for that is because in version 15, there was a total redesign of the user interface. So I've gotten the question, can I install both version 14 and version 15 on my Windows PC? And the answer is yes, but it's going to take a few additional steps. So in today's video, that's what we're going to go over. So let's go ahead and hop right on the computer. All right, so the objective of this video is to make this process very simple and straightforward. So I actually listed out all of the steps here, and we're really just going to systematically go through all of them. And so we're actually going to start with downloading eSword version 14. So if you already have version 14 installed, you can go ahead and skip to the timestamp where we begin to talk about installing version 15. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to e-sword.net. And so on this page, you would then go to what is called the FAQ. So up at the top navigation, you just click on FAQ, which stands for frequently asked questions. And there's a section that says, I do not like change. Can I return to eSword 14.5? And there's a button here for an install. So you go ahead and click that. It will install really the installer here. And so once that is done installing, we'll go ahead and open up the file. And so now that the installer is open, we're just going to go through a normal install process for version 14. So I'm just going to click next here. I'm going to accept the terms. There's some, update notes about version 14.5. We'll just click next. And so I am going to keep this at the default installation folder. And that's because a majority of you watching this video probably already have eSword installed in this folder. So I'm going to show this, as, a majority of people would have it. If you have it to a custom spot, you can put it to the custom spot, but you just note that we'll get to the point where we start talking about the different file locations of where eSword's installed, and it'll be important that you know where that is. So we'll go ahead and click next and then install. And so this is just going to take a little bit, and it's going to go ahead and just install eSword version 14 here. So once this is done, we'll be right back. All right, so the install is complete. So we'll just go ahead and click finish. And so now we're just going to go ahead and open up eSword. So if you click the Windows icon in the taskbar, it will open up the start menu. And in the start menu, you should see eSword appear. If your start menu doesn't quite look like this, you can go to the search bar at the top and type in eSword, and then you should be able to find the app as well. So then you just go ahead and click on it, and it will open up here. And it should say copyright 2025 as version 14. And so, you have your tip of the day pop up. But now, if we go ahead and go to options and resource settings, we can see that our resource location is in that install folder that we have. And then also my user files location is located in my documents folder under eSword. And so those are my two, default locations of where the information is stored. And so if we go back to our notepad file, we can see that we accomplished step 1 and 2. So I'm going to go ahead and cross those off, and look at that. We're already 1/4 of the way done. So the next thing here, we're going to go just to the documents folder just to see the eSword user files, just to make sure that they, are there and generated. So what I'm going to recommend is hitting Windows key R, or you can search for what the program is called. It's called Run. And so you can see this program here, and that's what I'm going to use the rest of this video. It just makes it very straightforward, where you just paste in the information. We find the folder that we need. You can also go into your Windows File Explorer and navigate to the area, but I believe that this is just the most straightforward way to tell you how to do it. So then if I go ahead and paste in the word documents and click OK, this will now open up your documents folder. And so inside the documents folder, you can see that I now have an eSword folder, and in here are my user files. So you know that, like, if you do highlights, bookmarks, etc., that information is there also, as well as your editor. All the notes, like your study notes, your topic notes, and journal notes, are in your user file. So you want to make sure, what I would even recommend while you're doing this is just make a backup of this folder before you continue, just to make sure that your user files are safe. You don't want to lose those for sure. Especially if you use a lot of those tools and that information. I would recommend, even if you don't already, start backing up that folder, just so you at least have a backup of all that information, just in case, if you spend a lot of time doing the highlights and files. So we can see that the folder was generated, so that's good. So guess what? We'll cross that one out as well. which is good. So next this is probably the most important part of the whole thing. So what we're gonna do before we install version 15 is we need to copy the version 14 folder. And so the reason that we need to do that is because when you install version 15, it's going to overwrite version 14. So this is how we kind of play around this to allow us to have both both versions on the same computer. So we're going to go ahead and just copy this. So you want to go to C drive program files x86. And so these things that you need to copy and paste, they're going to be in the description of this video below, just so you can copy and paste them as well, just to make your life a little easier. But we're going to go ahead and open up the run window again. And so under the run window, I'm going to go and open C drive program files x86. And I do want to note, remember, this is where we installed the eSword program at, but if you did a custom installation of a different folder, you got to navigate to that folder. So that's just one side note, but a lot of people, I'm sure, just went to the default folder. So if we click OK, we can now see these are the program files here. And so in here, there's an eSword folder. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click this and do copy. And then so next, I'm going to go to my downloads folder. And I'm going to go ahead and just right-click in the downloads folder and do paste. So now what this did, if I open up this folder, you can see now eSword version 14, the install files, I've copied them from that folder on the C drive and program files onto my downloads folder. And this is going to make sense here in a little bit if you just continue to follow through with me. So I also want to go ahead and rename this folder. So this folder in downloads, I'm going to rename it to version or to 14. So I'm going to name it e-sword 14. And so this is going to allow me to know that this is specifically the version 14 folder. Okay, so let's go ahead back to the notepad. And so right there, we copied the folder. So we did that. And then we also pasted the folder to the downloads folder, and we renamed it. Look at that. We're already halfway there. So the next thing we want to do is now download version 15. So if you have version 14 open, just go ahead and close out of that completely. Just make sure eSword's completely closed, or you'll probably get failures when you're trying to install this next version. But if you now clicked on the timestamp where you were doing the version 15 install, I do want to note that it was very important that you do the step right before this, where you copy the version 14 install files from your original install location into your downloads folder. So if you missed that part, I would just recommend going back to that timestamp so you do that part, because that's very important to actually be able to have both on your computer. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead back to eSword. And so now we're just going to navigate to the download page. So you just click download in the navigation, and you'll see an eSword install button. So you just go ahead and click that. And we can see in this video right now, the most current version is version 15.2.0. So now we see this file installed. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. And so once this installer opens, we'll go ahead through the install process. All right, so now it's open. So now we're just going to step through what it looks like to do this installation. So now we're just going to click next. I'm going to accept the terms, click next. And so this is an important part that I just want to note. So when you're installing version 15, one of the things that's noted in this README information is about the user files. So eSword 15 now shares the same user files as other eSword apps. So this is just my disclaimer at this point of the video. This is time for the disclaimer. So if you are an avid user of, the markups, the editor, all of that different information, I just want to note that I'm not exactly sure how stable it is to keep switching between version 14 and 15 and switching back and forth with your user files. So that's one thing I want to note. If you use the editor, use highlighting, just use this at your own discretion. Maybe what I would even recommend is using a different user files folder. So, you can have a version 14 user files and a version 15 user files. But if you want to try it, you can share the same folder. For me, I don't use the editor or highlighting in anything. I take my notes externally in another program. So this doesn't affect me at all, but it may affect you if you do those features. So just wanted to note that before we continue. So then we're going to click next. And so I am going to install it in the exact same folder. So what I'm going to do is it's going to replace eSword 14 with eSword 15. And you're going to be like, wait, I thought we were going to have both. That's why it was important for us to copy that folder from earlier. So I'll show you how this all connects. So we're going to go ahead and click next, and we're going to click install. And so this is just going to take a minute to install. And once it's done, we'll be right back. All right, so the installation's complete. So I'm going to go ahead and click finish. If we go back to our Notepad document, we can now see that we went to eSword.net download page and downloaded it. So we did that. We also installed version 15. Now we're just going to go ahead and open it to make sure the user file's location is pointed to where we want it. And it's going to also initiate some additional files as well. So again, go to the start icon, search eSword if you have to, but if you see it here, you just go ahead and click on it. And so this is now going to open up eSword version 15, because you can see now it says copyright 2026. And you can see the layout looks like version 15 because the user interface was completely redesigned in this version. So now we're going to go to options, and then we're going to go to resource settings. And so two things to note with this resource settings. We have the resource location and the user files location. So for the resource location, you can see that changed. Now it's in ProgramData eSword. So you could point this resource location back to where version 14's resource location was, but there was also a note that in version 15, some file types again changed. So there's certain file types that aren't supported in version 15. So it can get a little weird having both. So, my recommendation that I have right now currently is just leave this resource location different. So 15 has its own resources, 14 has its own resources. If you have a product key, purchased items, just enter the product key on 14 and 15. And then for the user files location, you can see that this is pointing to the same folder. So let's go ahead and open up File Explorer and go to Documents. And right there's the eSword folder. So I'm going to open up this folder, and you can see there's a bunch of other files that were added in here. So this is really just one universal, user files location. Again, if you are just kind of concerned with potential file corruption of your user files, first I would do a backup of that folder. But in addition, if you wanted to maybe make a new folder called eSword 15, and then, inside of here, your user file location, point to that folder, you can do that if needed. All right, so now we did that. So now we only have 2 more steps to go. We're so close to being done. So now we're just going to close out of eSword here. So I'm just going to click OK and close out. Okay, so now this is the fun part. So if you go ahead to your downloads folder, you can see you have your eSword 14 here. So if I go ahead and copy eSword 14, this eSword 14 folder, and now I'm going to go back to this run program again. And you can see earlier we went to C drive program files. I'm going to go ahead and just go to that same location again, click OK. And now you can see eSword folders here. So if I open up this eSword folder, this is actually version 15 that's installed in this folder now. So it replaced version 14. But now if I go ahead and I right click in here and I do paste, one thing to note, you may need administrative permissions on this computer to start to do the rest of these steps. So just, ensure that you have those, but then go ahead and click continue. And so there you go. Now I have eSword, this is 15, and now I've just pasted in 14's files. So now what? How do I access these 14 files? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of these real quick, go back to the notepad one more time, and we can cross out number 8. So we're actually on the final step. We're wrapping up here. We're almost done. So now what you want to do is you want to go to this Start Menu Programs location. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. I'm going to go ahead and click Windows key R, go back to this run window, and then I'm going to paste this information in. Again, these things that you can paste into the run program are in the description below. So go ahead and click OK. And so now you can see in here, here's all my different Start Menu programs, and you can see there's a folder for eSword. Okay, so there's an eSword item for shortcut. So if I go ahead and right click this and do show more and do properties, you can see that this is pointing to the default eSword location, which is good. But now what about version 14? How do we access 14? Well, you can go ahead and just do a copy of this and go ahead and paste it. Again, administrative permissions are required for this section. And then you just have the copy. And if you don't have administrative permissions, there is a way to do this. So you might be like, well, I don't have admin permissions. I don't understand how to do this. I'll just add one more note right after I'm done here to explain how you can do this without admin permissions. But the way that, the best way to do this is the way that I'm doing it here. So then you see how there's a copy now. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this copy, and I'm just going to name it eSword 14. And again, it'll just say administrative permissions. So I'll click OK. And so I'll right click here and I'll do show more on the one that I just created and do properties. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add in the number 14 where it says eSword, right? Because we named that folder eSword 14. If I click apply and click continue, now I have a shortcut for my start menu for eSword 14. Okay, so this is where this gets pretty cool. I'm going to close out here. So here we just did step number 9. So here we go. Okay, we're done. So what's this look like now? Final product. Well, if you go to the Windows icon in the taskbar again and open up the start menu, you can see there's an eSword folder. I click on the eSword folder, and now you see I have a 14. Do you see how I have eSword and eSword 14? I now have both programs. And so let's just show that this works. So I go ahead and click on 14, and there it is, copyright 2025. Okay, and let's see, it opens up. Tip of the day opens up. Click OK. There we go. I have my fully functional version 14 up and running. Now let's see if 15 is still working. So if we go back to the start menu again, eSword. Again, if you don't have it, your start menu looking like this, you can search for the item in the search bar. But then here, there's the other eSword. I click on this eSword, and what do you know? Copyright 2026. There's version 15, and look, fully functional. It's working. So that is how you have both installed on your computer at the same time. So you upgraded to version 15, but you copied the version 14 install files into your C drive to allow you to use those files, really run that program. And so remember how I noted that if you don't have administrative permissions, how else you can do this? So if we go to the downloads folder, you can see that eSword 14 folder. So technically, this eSword 14 folder could go anywhere that you want. It doesn't have to go into that program files folder. You can put it wherever you have permission to put it. If you just want to put it in your documents folder, I could take this folder, eSword 14, put it in documents. There it is. And then I could click the program in here and it will work. So again, the portion that I showed you where it shows up in the start menu, you don't have to do that portion either. The reason I just showed that is because this is how it's just really straightforward, easy for you to do. But with that, that's pretty much the main idea. So, if we look at our document here, all of our items are crossed off. And now if you followed this step by step, you now have eSword version 14 and 15 on the same Windows PC. So hopefully, if you enjoy 14 and the easy functionality, but you also want to experience some of the new features in 15, now you have the best of both worlds. So I hope this tutorial was helpful. I pray that all of your Bible studies and your digging into the Word, and when you're being a good Berean, studying out things, that it's very fruitful for you. And I hope that this tutorial was helpful. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments, and have a good day.